In the resistant army that eliminated their corrupt lord had turned even worse, and had doubled the taxes without caring for the people. Now Fumi told Itasuki that his attempt to create equality in this city had only made everything worse, and told Ren that the dragon he slayed had caused an epidemic that killed several villagers. Because he failed to incinerate it, he told them that he helped them to do their job, and said that their recklessness had made a lot of lives to be lost. Having no further desire to waste his spit, he began to leave, and even when Itasuki told him that he doesn't believe anything he said, he merely ignored him. That evening as they were about leaving, the smith's shop, the young warriors appeared before them, and the leader told Naofumi that they managed to save up all the money he asked for, so he gave him the item as agreed, but told them to buy better weapons with the money they earned. As he accepted them into his team, the system revealed all their stats, but he threatened to kick them out if they snitched on him. With the next waves only 24 hours away, he suggested that they begin plotting a strategy for the battle. By the following day they were all ready for the war, and Naofumi had stuck up enough medicine to be used for the wounded. As he wore Raftalia, a custom-made bracelet, he told her that it was imbued with a spell that would boost her mana generation, so she told him she likes it. When Flo grew jealous and demanded for her own gift, Naofumi wore her a special hairpin telling her that it would increase her agility. As she grew excited she transformed into the bird, and Naofumi thought it looked perfect on her. Just then the young soldiers arrived, so Naofumi registered the squad for teleportation and told them that they would all vanish at the same time. When the waves arrived, at that moment the time began counting down and they vanished instantly. As they arrived in a new village, they realized that the waves had already invaded the place, but two knights slayed a monster before it could end a villager. As they began to think the battle was over, a monster lizard appeared and tried to eat them, but was knocked aside and Raftalia sliced it before Flo bashed it with kicks, killing it in that instant. Just then they noticed an older lady kicking and bashing the monsters. When she was done, she thanked Naofumi for saving her life and he remembered that he had revived her with his healing potion. As she kicked another monster she told them that she was an adventurer, and said that killing them was basically a cakewalk. When Naofumi wondered how much longer they would have to keep fighting, the lead knight suggested that he finds a way to destroy the waves before the entire village was destroyed, so the old lady told him that they would protect the village. In the meantime, as Naofumi and the girls began running towards the portals, they spotted a ghost ship. At the same time Itasuki and the girl eliminated the surrounding monsters. When Naofumi demanded to know where the others were fighting, Itasuki told him that they were on the ghost ship, so Flo immediately flew onto the ship and flew even higher, so they would have a better view of everyone. Before their eyes Ren sliced the skull captain, but it returned to life and started fighting again. As Ren and Motoyasu backed into each other, Ren suggested they eliminate the skull captain first, but Motoyasu told him that he would rather face off with the Kum, as he thought it was the only way to lure out the soul leader, which was basically responsible for the waves. Before they knew it, Naofumi appeared before them, but Motoyasu was not impressed and told him to scram. Ignoring his useless face, Naofumi told them that the only way to stop the monsters from reappearing was by ending the waves. By instinct he blocked the captain and pushed it off, saying that they were supposed to fight together and not separately. Just then the Kren attacked him, but he managed to shield himself, telling them to quit thinking. But as he let out those words, Ren and Motoyasu started bickering again. As Naofumi checked the captain's stats, he wondered how he could lure out the Soul Eater without killing the zombie. At that moment he noticed the zombie's shadow and told Raftalia to cast her light magic on it. So Raftalia began casting the spell, and as a bright light revealed the shadows, Naofumi told her to kill it, so she stabbed it without hesitating. Immediately a spirit flame rose towards the sky and Ren swiftly stabbed another shadow. As more spirit flames rose high over the ship, and they soon realized that they were surrounded by the Soul Eaters. Before their eyes the spirits rose towards the sky and united as a dimensional Soul Eater. At the sight of this, everyone wondered if they could actually kill it. Immediately Ren, Itsuki and Motoyasu unleashed a powerful combo at the beast, but it was unscathed. Realizing they were hopeless, Naofumi told Flo to cast her wind magic, so she managed to knock it with a tornado. Even so the Soul Eater remained unfazed and began to prepare an attack of its own. Afraid its attack would be lethal, Ren and Motoyasu began charging towards it, but Naofumi thought it was a shitty idea, and protected Raftalia and Flo from the mighty blast that rocked the ship. As it prepared an even greater blast that was sure to annihilate them all, Flo activated a new power and started bashing it from side to side, and drawing its attention elsewhere. she caused it to lose its aim entirely. At once Raphtalia tried slaying it and Flo began smashing it, narrowly escaping its jaws each time. Seeing as the monster's life was decreasing, now Fumi thought they may have a chance at defeating it, but was afraid that the village would be destroyed before it was even over. Desperate to eliminate it, now Fumi told Raphtalia that he would unleash his rage shield, in hopes of taking it down at once, so she reminded him that she was his sword, and said that she was willing to follow him to the very ends of the earth. At that moment he summoned his rage shield, and the energy from the light began to consume him inside his consciousness. He realized that the dragon's soul was alive in his shield, and as a grow up skill was activated, his shield and armor upgraded, as he began to burn with the dragon's rage. When the other heroes noticed his new power, they wondered if he met up with the devil or some dark spirit. Before they knew it, Flo was taken over by a powerful rage, and she took down the monster with a kick, allowing now Fumi to burn it, determined to turn it to ash. At the sight of this, Mine began telling everyone that now Fumi was a wild beast, who wasn't even fitting to be a hero, but Raphtalia called her a useless face, and wondered why the other heroes were not offering him any support, since he was fighting for their entire world. Just then the pirate and Kren appeared behind now Fumi, but Ren slayed the pirate with his crimson sword, and Itsuki launched his thunder shot at the Kren. Realizing their only hope at defeating the monster was by working together, Motoyasu finally agreed to help out, and now Fumi jumped away from the monster looking to utilize the opening. They began striking the eater at the same time, and Motoyasu stabbed it with his spear. Even so, it still rose up and was practically unkillable. At this point, meanwhile now Fumi consciousness, he continued fighting his rage, but as Raphtalia appeared beside him and told him that she believes in him, the rage vanished at that instant. He remembered that he had promised to protect her and Flo always, and thought that the rage shield was causing them more harm than good. Right then he unlocked a new skill and trapped the beast inside a shield prison. When it tried breaking out of the prison, he caused iron rods to impale it, and began casting a spell. At that moment the Iron Maiden appeared in the sky, and accepted the shield prison, shutting its doors on it. As it vanished, the monster began descending into the abyss, finally dead. With the monster gone, now Fumi fell from exhaustion and Flo followed suit, wondering what happened. As the other heroes grew jealous of his victory, Motoyasu vowed to have the upper hand next time, but Flo appeared before him calling him a sore loser. As now Fumi noticed a mysterious presence around them, another soul eater appeared before them, and Ren thought that this was not in the video game, but as it roared for their meat, a flurry of light arrows rained down on it, killing it in that instant. Just then a lady descended before them, dispelling all traces of the monster, and said that now Fumi alone was deserving of the title. She introduced herself as Glass, and said that she was their enemy. Using his appraisal, now Fumi discovered that she was a high-ranking human, and thought they were probably hopeless of defeating her in a fight. However, the lady was eager for a challenge, and told him to order his slaves into battle. Hearing her words, the other heroes grew angry, and Motoyasu told her that he would whip her flat all over the ship. Immediately they surrounded her and unleashed another powerful combo that should have destroyed every bit of her body, but not a scratch was made on her, and she wondered if that was all they've got. To reveal a power of her own, she cast a reverse spell and blew them away, with a mighty wind, leaving now Fumi as the last man standing, with the others in shock from her powers. Now Fumi decided to drink a soul-soothing potion that would recover his SP immediately. He trapped her inside a shield prison, but she destroyed it in an instant, and swiftly blocked Raphtalia's attack, before blowing Flo aside as she cast a wind. Now Fumi managed to protect Raphtalia, and serpents flew out to restrain her. And now Fumi command, Flo attacked her with relentless assault, but she merely cast her away. Just then Raphtalia tried to end her, but she blocked and destroyed her sword instantly, as she prepared for a new attack. Now Fumi commanded Raphtalia and Flo to his side, and summoned a shield prison to protect them, managing to survive the onslaught of her attacks, but passed out after it was over. With now Fumi still standing, the lady told him that she was impressed with his strength, and wondered when he intends to use his rage shield. So with Raphtalia in support, now Fumi decided to SU in the dark power, possessing Flo with the same rage. Immediately she began charging at the enemy, aiming with a kick, but she caught her and threw her aside, like a useless trash, before blowing her away like a stuffed anima. Now Fumi tried running closer, but she cast a wind to stop him, before igniting in flames in an instant. She put out the fire, telling him that his flame was too cold for her. To show more of her powers, she launched a shell cracker that penetrated his shield, and destroyed his armor. Even so, he continued to stand, and she thought that he was truly deserving of being called the shield hero, and asked him to unleash his full power, hoping to live up to the challenge. Now Fumi bound her in a shield prison and summoned the Iron Maiden, trapping her inside and shutting up the cell for good. However, she destroyed it in an instant, and descended back on the ship. Just then the ship rocked and she realized that the wave was about to vanish. Deciding to get rid of them for good, she told them that killing them was the only way to win the war. As she prepared to launch one final attack, Raphtalia cast a powerful light to blind her vision, allowing them to utilize the distraction and escape on flow. However, just as they were hurrying farther away from the ship, light arrows began raining on them, as Naofumi cast an air shield to block the rest of them. From the ship the lady launched a glowing light sword, but Naofumi managed to shield it, and parried it towards the mountains. Realizing she could not defeat them, the lady promised to annihilate them all next time. At that moment she ascended into the portal and vanished instantly. Before long the waves disappeared and the ghost ship crashed on the mountain. But Raphtalia wondered if the village managed to survive. Later that day, after returning to the village, Naofumi remembered that a countdown had appeared on the system, before the end of the waves, and began to wonder why the waves even exist in the first place, knowing for sure that they must grow stronger before the next one to save them from an instant. With the Soul Leader skill now included in his shield, Naofumi wondered how he could upgrade Raphtalia and Flow to a higher class. At that moment 2 knights appeared before him, telling him that the king was commanding to see him at the castle. Inside the castle the king began telling him that he had seen the entire fight in his crystal ball, and thought he deserves a little recognition. But Naofumi was disappointed at his words, remembering he was practically begged to show up in this hellhole. The king told him that he was too powerful for his own good, and demanded to know how he became so strong. Sick of his shit, Naofumi told him to kneel before him, and ask like a good servant. But the king grew angry and ordered his knights to surround him. So Naofumi told them that he would destroy them like worthless garbage, since their faces were worse than trash anyway. As he began to leave, the king threatened to eliminate Raphtalia and Flow, saying that he would make them pay for his sins. But Naofumi became very angry and threatened to destroy him if he ever did so, and finally left. As he started leaving the castle, he came across a lady who told him that he was becoming a reckoning force, and warned him to be cautious of new enemies. That evening, after Naofumi arrived at the smith's shop, the smith wondered how they intend to upgrade their class. Revealing a map, he showed them a new city, saying that it was the best place to go for their upgrade. As he tried heading off to load their wagon, Naofumi told him that he wants a new sword for Raphtalia, but she lied that she had a spare sword, hoping to save some money for their long trip. Just as they began riding off, Naofumi discovered a letter from the smith, telling him that he had loaded their wagon with enough food to last them for weeks, and added a shield accessory for his upgrade, along with a sword for Raphtalia. On top of that, he added an invisible sword that would be useful in fighting unseen enemies, and special overpowered gloves that could push anything, even the carriage. While resting for the day, they discovered Melty approaching them, and Naofumi wondered how the hell she found them. Flo tried telling him that Melty was a good person unlike the rest of the royal family, but Naofumi couldn't possibly care less. Just then Melty told him to return to the castle immediately to see the king, but Naofumi refused instantly. Looking to try a different approach, she told him to apologize to the king and make peace, before he loses the rest of his earnings. But Naofumi told her that he would rather vomit his gut. He said that he was doing their world a favor by trying to fend off the waves, but she soon began screaming at him, wondering why he just couldn't get along with her father, and told him to make peace, before the king got into trouble with the queen. As Naofumi looked at her security, he thought they looked exactly the same way. They appeared on the day he was set up in the castle. At that moment a soldier began charging to slay her, but he managed to protect her, and shoved him away. Immediately the soldier began accusing him of abducting the princess, and commanded the other soldiers to attack him. So Raphtalia began striking, kicking and smacking the soldiers, and Flo transformed into a bird and sat on some of them. As Naofumi continued blocking their attacks, before long they kicked all the soldiers to the ground. But having seen enough, the lead soldier commanded the rest of them to retreat. By the following day they began to reveal altered footage all across the cities, telling everyone that Naofumi had abducted the princess, and declared them fugitives, giving them no other choice but to hide in the mountains. That night, looking at the rosary, he remembered that he had found it on one of the soldiers, and Raftalia had told him that it belongs to the church in the capital, making him realize that the church was responsible for this setup. Angered by this realization, Naofumi wondered just how many enemies they had to deal with at the same time. However, Melty told him that the king was innocent, but suspected that her sister was responsible instead. Even so, Naofumi had no desire to believe her delusions, and said that there was no saint in the castle, and tried asking him to visit the king for the final time, convinced that they would finally make peace. But Naofumi walked away, realizing she was only a naive kid. After a few hours he returned to the camp and said that they must leave for a new country, but wondered where Melty would go. She told him that she would return to the capital to see the king, but Naofumi told her that it was the worst possible idea she could ever have, as she would be killed instantly. He told her that she could only be safe by his side, and promised to protect her in the meantime. So the next day they abandoned their wagon and began traveling over the mountains. That evening, as they decided to rest, Raftalia asked Naofumi why he had chosen a different country than earlier agreed upon. So he told her that it was heavily protected and thought it would be a much safer place for them to hide. That night Naofumi decided to ask Melty why he's never heard of her mother. Melty told him that she was the queen of another country, and was a superior ruler over the king, who married into her royal family. Realizing that even the king was a useless fake opportunist, Naofumi began laughing at him. Just then he sensed a presence over the mountains, so they started walking again. After arriving at a dead end, they realized that several soldiers were already waiting on top of the mountain, so Naofumi suggested that they take a different path. But as they returned, a rock crumbled and Melty nearly fell off, but Naofumi caught her instantly. Unluckily, the soldiers discovered their whereabouts, so they began running towards the edge of the mountain. As they arrived at the cliff, Naofumi discovered that it was a dead end. Just then Itsuki appeared before them and told Naofumi to release Melty, but he told her that he never abducted her in the first place. When Motoyasu said that it was a big lie, Melty began telling them that she had asked Naofumi to protect her, after realizing there was a plot to kill her, and asked that they unite as a team. But Mine said that she had been brainwashed by Naofumi's shield, and that the church in the capital had proved that the shield hero was the devil incarnate. This all made sense to Motoyasu, and he thought this was why he could neither have Flo or Raftalia. Raftalia tried saying that Naofumi was innocent, but Ren told him to release Melty, as proof that she wasn't brainwashed. Afraid for herself, Melty told him that she would be killed for sure if she returns, but Mine began persuading her to follow them. Coming to a decision, Naofumi told them that he would rather protect the girl, as he could not trust Mine to keep her safe, since she was desiring to be first in line to the throne, and would not hesitate to kill the poor girl. At his command, Flo transformed into the bird and began running away. Using his air shield, she climbed on the mountain, and started flying off to the other side. But Motoyasu flung a spelled shackle at her foot, causing her to transform and spill everyone towards the ground. Unluckily, Flo fell on the wrong side, and Mine thought they have some leverage. Raising her hand, she grew a light ball and launched it high above the mountains, casting light all around them. With Flo far off and the heroes arriving, Naofumi realized they had nowhere to run. As Motoyasu held on to Flo like a worthless, disgusting perv, he said that he asked an alchemist to make the shackle specifically for her, so she would remain an angel forever. Melty began casting a spell and narrowly missed him with her blast, telling him that she would fry his face in her next attempt. But Mine launched a flaming ball that Naofumi managed to block. At the sight of this, Itsuki wondered why she was trying to eliminate her own sister. But Mine said that Melty has a death wish and she intends to grant it, so she continued launching more fireballs, and immediately drank a potion to increase her powers, and fired flaming bullets relentlessly. Raftalia told Naofumi that she has a plan to rescue Flo, so Naofumi offered to make a distraction and summoned his rage shield. At that instant, as Naofumi began to burn with the fiery power, Mine commanded her soldiers to attack at once, so they launched arrows at him, but he blocked with his shield. As Mine prepared a mighty flaming ball to eliminate them, Raftalia appeared from behind and stabbed her with the invisible sword, causing it to vanish, and Flo knocked the disgusting perv with a might punch. At the commander's order, the soldiers started charging towards Naofumi, but his flames exploded with a mighty force, destroying the mountain around them. After the smoke cleared, Naofumi told Ren to open his useless eyes to understand the setup, and toss the rosary at his feet before leaving. Later that night, after Naofumi unlocked Flo's shackle, they noticed a stranger beside them, and realized that she had appeared at the village during Naofumi's animal race with Motoyasu. Before Raftalia could draw her sword, Melty told her that the stranger works for the queen, The stranger told Naofumi that she was happy to see him again, and he remembered that she was the lady he came across in the castle. She told him that he must see the queen immediately, before the situation grew worse, and said that only the queen could restore peace to the country. So Naofumi decided to look at a map, wondering how far away the queen's city was. Before long, Raphtalia sensed a terrible smell and they wondered where it was from, but did not realize that mine was starting to burn the entire forest. In a desperate attempt to smoke them out, at her command her soldiers fired flaming arrows farther into the forest, hoping to make Naofumi take the blame for it. At the same time in the forest, Naofumi and the girls watched the fire from a distance, and they finally realized that the ugly psycho must be responsible for it. So Naofumi suggested that they leave before the fires spread to them. By morning, Naofumi decided to buy food at a nearby village, hoping to discover some new piece of information. So the merchant told him that it was impossible to leave the country, as all the exits had been blocked. After joining the others, he told them that their safest option was to see the queen, as she was the only person that could protect them. A few days later they arrived at a new region belonging to the demi-humans, and Melty told them that her friend was the lord of this region, and thought he could help them sneak out of the country, since they were practically fugitive at this point. When Naofumi noticed that Raphtalia was sad, he wondered what may have happened to her, so she told them that her village was nearby, and that shortly after the waves they were attacked by the king's soldiers and taken away as slaves. Just then a man appeared before them. Naofumi and Raphtalia thought he was an enemy and were almost ready to eliminate him, but Melty told them that he was her friend. The man introduced himself as Ragnar, and told them that he was the lord of this region, but Naofumi thought he was too ugly to be trusted. Ragnar told them that the area wasn't safe, and invited them over to his mansion for better security. Inside his mansion he told them that Mine had offered a huge reward for their execution, and told them to rest for as long as they want. However, as they started having dinner, Naofumi told them that they must leave by morning, before they were discovered with several soldiers looking for them. He knew it was only a matter of time before their whereabouts was exposed. When they arrived inside the room, Naofumi watched the windows, afraid they would be surrounded while resting, so Raphtalia promised to keep watch in the meantime, and asked him to get some rest. But Melty was angry that he had been ignoring her. Hoping to cheer her up, Flo suggested that they take a walk around the mansion. Meanwhile, at the capital, the king discovered that Melty was yet to be found, and commanded his army to turn the entire country upside down in search for her. As they left, Mine told the king that she would rescue her sister and return her home safely, but he had no idea that she was the devil incarnate. At Ragnar Mansion, with everyone else asleep, Melty decided to ask Naofumi if running far away was her best choice, as she had several duties to attend to, and was afraid of becoming the world's most useless princess. However, Naofumi told her that her survival was more important, as nothing else would matter if she was dead. As he took over night duty, he noticed that Raphtalia was having a nightmare, and tried soothing her. He remembered that she used to have nightmares when she was younger and wondered if she was having the same nightmare.